you know, the strain on your family is just unbearable. It's just unbearable. You can't take it. And I spent 3 tours in Vietnam, and if I had to do it all over again, I'd rather go over there than go through this again. I mean, I even told my wife I would just leave Pennsylvania if they had this problem. And okay, on a steel culvert and coming under it within the next day or so. And we could tell very so because when we looked outside, we could see a crack coming towards our house. And it was about 6 inches wide and probably about a foot deep. All right. So what we did is we moved out of our house and we moved into our RV that you're sitting behind me. We moved in and we parked it on our driveway. Come Saturday morning, we could hear our house cracking and creaking because it was solid concrete. It had a roof on it, it weighed 100 tons. By Saturday night, my bathroom was in my hallway. My ceilings you could put your hand through. The floors in my garage were buckled. I could put my hand down in the floor, okay? I had a crack behind my house that was 3 feet deep and probably 250 feet long. We couldn't go into the house. We couldn't get our furniture out for 2 weeks because the house was unstable and they wouldn't let us go in, the insurance company. So we had to hire engineers to come out, support the concrete roof up to get the furnishings out. What was really unique in that one night period with our RV parked out here, the concrete underneath the RV buckled so much, it snapped the concrete. It actually didn't break it, it bent the concrete and was sticking up 2 feet in the air. It was like a big oval, but there was no cracks. Yeah, I've never seen concrete fold like this. Now after about a week's time, the concrete finally gave way and cracked, okay? But everything in the house moved. The external walls in our garage buckled. They pushed in about 2.5 feet. They broke right in the middle, and to this day we still don't know why the ceiling stayed on the house because the walls were so much buckled in. So after about 2 weeks, they came in and got our furniture out. In the meantime, we were trying to settle up with the insurance company, and we spent the first 30 days living in our RV, okay? And then once a week we'd take our RV down to a sewage dump place and dump the sewage and get refill on water and bring it back out here because we had to stay here due to the fact that we had horses and animals to take care of. After that part, we moved into a hotel, and Chubb Insurance Company agreed to pay our hotel bill. We moved into down South Hills Village. But the bad thing again that people don't realize is you have to pay for that hotel bill up front. Then you got to submit the bills to the insurance company, and that takes 30 days to get your money. So in the meantime, if the insurance company or the mine's not doing it, they're using your money to support the damage that they did on your property. So we lived in the hotel all off and on for about 3 months. We'd come back here and live in the RV for a week, and then we'd go back to the hotel. But if you've ever lived in a hotel with 3 people in one room and my wife in that, it was just terrible. I mean, we argued, you know, I mean, you have one room there, one bathroom, and that's it. And we're used to a nice size home, okay? And you try to compromise on people. I try to compromise with the insurance company saying, okay, I'll rent a house. I'll even get a small house, okay? And I could have went and got a big giant home the same size as mine because my policy covered it. But again, you have to use your money up front, your deposit. They do not give you any funds up front to fight it. And when we filed the claim with DER Insurance, they said, no, we don't pay until your other insurance company pays. And now you get into the argument is, DER's insurance says we cover the structure, we do not cover furniture or belongings. Now in my case, I lost a lot of belongings because I had water beds and stuff, and we had to throw mattresses away. And there were some things in the house we could not get out. For instance, we had a hot tub, okay? That had to stay in the house. We couldn't take that out. So you lose a lot of material items, and then, you know, everything is boxed up. Our furniture and all our goods were put in storage for 1.5 years. Another expense out of your pocket. Eventually, our private insurer took care of it, but I had to put that money out of my own pocket for a while, and every 30 days I'd submit a claim, and then it would take 60 days and more. Again, every time that you need something, either from an insurance company or DRR, you have to threaten them. I must have had my lawyer called DER and Chubb's a number of times threatening them to either pay up or be sued. Everything. But people don't realize what other things that DER doesn't cover with their $100,000 and $150,000 insurance, okay? Namely, Number one, closing costs for a house. And we're just finding this out, okay? There's $3,000 I have to put out of my pocket, okay, out of my money for closing costs. Secondly, I have to get a mortgage just like I did before, okay? It's a shorter one and it's less money, but instead of paying 5.5%, I'm paying 8.5%. So over the period of 15 years, I'm going to lose somewhere between $15,000 and $20,000, again, out of my pocket, okay? They don't pay for medical bills, like my daughter, okay? She had some speech problems. I had to take her to a specialist. She was starting to come around okay, then they mined, and her speech went bad again. So I had to take her into Children's Hospital, all right? And that's money out of my pocket. The insurance, Blue Cross Blue Shield doesn't pay the deductible, okay? So U.S. Steel don't pay that, all right? Water supply, okay? Number one, I have to pay now. If I have to put a cistern in, I got to pay to have water delivered every month for the rest of my life, okay? My house was an underground solar house, so I had very little utility bills. Now you can see my house, I'm going to have a utility bill. I have to buy firewood now, so all my expenses are going to go up. These guys don't figure that into it, okay? What they'll do is they offer you a little bit of money to try to satisfy you and say, well, we're going to give you $20,000, $30,000 and you're going to feel real great about this, and you'll say, gee, that's a lot of money for me. Now, if you're in debt, that's great money, okay? So you can say, well, I'll take that money and run. But if you ever sat down and figured out every expense that you're going to go through, okay, the pain and suffering, okay, I bet me and my wife argued every night for the last year because we rented a house, we were in a smaller home, okay, we had utility bills, we argued about my work, we argued about me coming out here and working. And you can see a lot of it isn't completed yet, and I've got to do a lot of work myself because I didn't get enough money to take care of all my damage and everything. Now I'm in the state of DER, okay? I'm going to DER now and asking for money. To get a response from them, I've called them the last week every day, and I have not heard a word from them on my money. Now, here's the kicker. If you get money from the coal companies, okay, the first thing the DER does, and any insurance company is, we're going to subtract that from any money we're going to give you, okay, right away. So you didn't get no money for pain and suffering or for all the problems you're going to have. They're going to deduct that, okay? Then you may be taxable on that money that they give you, all right? So you're going to give 1/3 of it back to the government. So you're not going to make out by selling the coal rights or just giving in to these people. You got to fight them and ask for them to completely repair everything, okay, and pay all the money up front. Okay, my argument was, fine, you own the coal. If you want it, that's fine. You put everything the way it was, back the way it was. I'll go away, I'll come back, you build my house, you fix everything. But see, they don't want to do that. They're not in the business of construction. They want you to take care of it. So you, as a homeowner, has to sit down and figure out how much money you got in your house, how much it's appraised for, okay? How much money you feel that you spent on fixing the house up and everything, and you got to go back to those figures. But again, the mining company goes out and gets their own real estate agent to come in and appraise your property, and that's what they go by. They will not go by yours. Okay, so it's a lose-lose situation. You're not going to win. You're not going to gain no money out of the deal. If you break even, you're going to be real lucky. Listen, the mining company is not going to give you anything that's going to make you profitable, and they're not going to pay for any damage in your house that's reasonable, because they're going to argue that point until doomsday. It's your responsibility to go out and get a construction for repair. Same with DER. Here's a good instance I found out about DER. If you have damage by DER, you have to get 3 bids. Okay? You get 3 bids, DER gets a bid. Okay? Now, DER will take their bid and look against your 3 bids. If you're not within 10% of their bid, you get to start all over again because they want you to meet their bid. So what you're doing is you're actually bribing your construction worker and say, hey, lower your price so it's within 10% of DER. And that was told to me by DER people. If you're not within that 10%, we start this process all over again. Biggest thing, pay for the water. We don't want water buffaloes sitting in our yard. I like to see you take water buffaloes and sit them over there in, Upper St. Clair or in the South Hills area, these $500,000 and $700,000 homes. Go ask those people, they'd like to have a water buffalo sitting in their front yard, okay? That's the worst disease-catching item I ever seen. We had a water buffalo here for a year, and we had, I think it was like 2,000 gallons. I drained that thing every 3 days because I wanted fresh water. If you want to sit out here in the summertime and have a water buffalo and drink hot water out of your spigot, it's great, okay? So it's, now we had water deliveries every week for our animals and that, and I wouldn't drink that water. I wouldn't give it to anybody. I'd had to give it to my horses only because I had to. So, yeah. I don't know what you've seen up in your area, but this is devastation. My neighbor lost his water about the same time I lost mine, and because he was over 300 feet from my panel, his well was not caused by mining. His water just kind of disappeared, and now it's orange mud, okay? So the man had to put a cistern in. So we want to know why that the mining companies, they should resupply your water, and this water should be permanent water supply, whether it's city water or they put in cisterns, but preferably we'd rather have city water. Now, that brings up another subject. If you're on a well and the mining company says, we're going to give you city water, who's going to pay that water bill for the rest of your life? Why should we pick up the expense for water when it's up to the mining company to reimburse us and pay for any water damage that's lost? Okay.
It shook the house and made a loud boom, and everything, I was sitting at the desk and the desk moved, everything moved, and then 2 days after that, our neighbor, Jim Bebout, said that's when he first noticed this slip starting to come up here on the hillside. And it just felt like, you know, in a week's time, it felt like big enough you could stick the house up there in a hole. And there was water coming out there like you wouldn't believe, and just ran all over the field up there and ruined the whole place. Till we had a horse got in it one day when the fellow came by and saw her struggling, and they went up and got her out before the mine did come and put an electric fence around it, because we were going to turn baby colts in that field and they would get fast in that. But we've had just in the last, a lot of things changed then, and then it kind of stayed the same, and a big crack came in the bottom of the workshop out there. A big crack came along the top of the back wall in our big barn, and the stairway came apart from the house about 1 inch up in our front house. Things like that happened, and the doors, some doors got so they wouldn't shut, and some doors got so when you opened them they'd almost knock you down. They flew open so fast. And that stayed about like that until about 2 weeks ago. Then it started getting much worse. Those cracks got bigger, and it got so bad we had to take one little door off the barn and just put it in the hole and board it up. And there's the big door that they bring the horses in for the breeding. They can't get that door closed within about 4 inches. They had to take a door off of their lab because it wouldn't close. And because of this, we have air conditioning in the lab and the office to keep them a certain degree. And our electric bill at that barn is usually around $70-some each month, and this last month was $107 because of the not being able to confine the air conditioning to the area it's supposed to be in. And these kind of things Clark noticed the other day the bridge is giving over there. There's some places on the bridge, which that isn't our property, but we use that bridge to travel over all the time, and it's dangerous. The mining company and DER were here this week, and they went around and took pictures and did a lot of checking. The mine has been aware of it all the time. We've checked with Brad Miller several times, and he's had some engineers out here to check it. That's it. I don't know. Now that we have, there's a hump out here in the road, very noticeable, and there's one as you go down around the road between the two barns, you jump down over. And I think it's, that's just very noticeable that we didn't have an earthquake, something caused it. So I don't know how they feel about that. We haven't talked to them. DER we filed a claim with them, and what they're position is supposed to be, I guess, is to prove that the mine was the cause of all this. Now, whether they can or not, I don't know. But they seem to think. Now, one of the fellows that was here Monday had been here about 2 weeks ago. And he said, or 3 weeks, maybe longer, I don't know. But he said, oh, things have changed since I was here. He said those things are much worse than they were before. I mean, he could notice the difference. So it isn't only us seeing it. And a lot of our neighbors have they've seen it before and they're seeing it now, and it's a lot worse. In fact, we're going to have to soon do some cribbing up, I think, in this basement, because if you notice right here, you can stick your hand on top of this foundation. Well, the house is soon going to come down. You can put your hand right in there, and that won't stay up there forever without, when the foundation goes out from under it, it'll go down too.
Last winter, it pulled the registers away from
Yes, it pulled our pipes apart right in this corner last winter, and we had water leaked. The kids had just put down new carpet on the whole downstairs, and it leaked water out. We didn't know it was doing it, just, little, not a whole lot at one time, until Corby's wife walked back in there and she was wet. So we had to take that carpet up, and they had to replace the padding. We dried out the carpet, and we had the carpet man come, and he did get the stains out. But we had a plumber came and put in new pipe longer, so it would. That's the only place that we found it has split, but we do have hot water heat all over the house, and that could shift at any time. We have spring water that came in from a reservoir from on top of the hill, and it left Friday. And they came, and we checked it all out on Saturday and Sunday. We were without water, more or less. We just had a little bit. And they tell me now there's water about 30 feet below where the reservoir is. There's a lot of water coming out of the ground, but it's not where the spring was before. Now, whether it'll stay or not, they did bring us a tank and put it in our garage basement. And they're hauling water for us now. We're using that water. They left the reservoir as was, and what fills in there will do for our horses in that field. But they said in 2 weeks, they would watch that for 2 weeks, and if that water stayed in that new place, then we would have to pipe it in to our system. But see, this water supplies four families, because it supplies the schoolhouse. It's all on the same water. And when we were so dry, a couple years ago?
Right.
We had plenty of water. We didn't have any problems. We didn't have to haul water. We had nothing. And as I say, I only used the well water to water flowers and water my garden, things like that. And I found out this one time when I went to use it this summer, it was gone. It's the first time it's been gone. Yes, I don't know how deep that well is. It's been there. It was there before I came here in 1948. So I don't know how deep it is. Blocks and then down to here, and this is solid cement from here down. And as you see, it's going down and right through that solid cement is cracked. It has been about like the other. It started just a little bit at first, and then it came more as this last time it really got worse.
My name is Carol Fermanic. The experience I've had is the gas line that caused the explosion next door here where I live. Now my daughter wrote this in 1992. Bailey Mine they moved out here and started mining in 1989. Now my daughter wrote this in 92. This is what has happened since. Consolidated Coal Company has had its Bailey Mine in operation in the Washington and Greene County area for approximately 8 years, well, about 10 years now. When this coal mine moved into our community, not many people thought about the damage or the destructions that would soon follow. All they thought about was how many job opportunities in the area. This is how our nightmare began. Our house is located approximately 3 miles from the entrance of the Bailey mine. We started noticing damage to our home in August of '89. It began with small hairline cracks in the basement walls and floors, which are composed of solid concrete. Many of our neighbors were experiencing the same damages to their homes. As time went on, so did the damage. The cracks in the basement got larger and wider, and the beams that support our garage floor were pulled out of the cement. And in this time period, we were approached by a representative of Bailey Mine, and an offer was made to us to purchase our house, 11 plus acres and the natural gas well. We did not accept this offer. Our neighbors began losing their water and the damage continued. In October of 1990, the same representative of Bailey Mine came to our home and made their final offer. Again, we declined this offer. The damage was even more apparent at this time, not just to our house, but to the land. The roads were cracking and in some places sinking. This, this we believe was due to both the longwall mining that was being done in the area, and at the same time, done in the area at the time, and the large trucks that were hauling the machinery to and from the mine on these roads. The rocks in the creek bottoms were rising out of the creeks and the springs that once helped fill these creeks with water that went dry. In the spring of 1991, my father, now my daughter had wrote this for me, so this is my daughter saying that my father, Dennis Fermanic, was out of town on a job, and my grandfather, which would be Mr. Fermanic Sr. here, he came out to make sure, check on things and make sure things were okay, because he was afraid this was going to fall in the garage floor there. My grandfather too, well, my father-in-law is a retired coal miner himself, so he was afraid of what might happen here. And while my grandfather, some people come out here from the coal company, again, because my father-in-law had gotten in touch with the Bailey mine, telling them he was afraid something was going to happen here. So they come out while me and my father-in-law was here by ourselves. And I think there was 4 guys all together. Well, 3 stayed in here with my father-in-law talking, and the other went outside with me, approached me outside by myself. And he told me that he will set an example out of us people here, because we're giving him a rough time about it. And so he said they would set an example out of us, and he wouldn't be easy on us, he said. So this incident, this is what my daughter said, this incident made my mother very much upset. She called me at where my daughter was working, crying on the phone, which I did. She said she stopped in at the Bailey mine on her way home from work to speak to the representative that had upset my mother so much. I was informed that he was not there, but I was given both his office home phone number and his home phone number. When I got home, I called this individual twice and was hung up on both times, after telling them who I was. After this incident, my parents retained an attorney. We lost our water in September of '91. Then that's when we were informed that they had longwalled on both sides of us. By this time, the damage to our house was quite substantial. The double doors in our basement had fallen in. They had already fallen in through there. And the walls were starting to crack fairly bad. Then our nightmare had really become scary and dangerous. On January 3rd, 1992, at approximately 9 p.m., what we had always feared became reality to us and to one of our neighbors. My father, my husband, was again out of town. The rest of my family was watching television when there was this large bang. Everyone jumped up and ran to the front door thinking the house had finally collapsed. But when we got outside and realized it was our neighbor's house instead, it was on fire, and the bang we had heard was their home exploding about 50 yards away. their grandson was there, and I don't know how he made it out of that house. I mean, he was sleeping on a couch because it all collapsed on him, the walls. Well, he had jumped off the back then, and my son ran over. They all ran outside, and my son was they were gonna slap me to try to calm me down. I was hysterical, saying I gotta get my stuff out of my house to save my house. Now, I don't know what I was thinking, but anyway, the boy wanted to go back in the house and save some of his stuff. He had college stuff in his car and that. Well, my son grabbed him, pulled him back just in time, because right in the driveway, the big explosion, the fire went up, blew up his car and everything. So, but then right after that explosion there, that's when we found out, well, I told him, I said, I knew it was caused from the mine subsidence, because I have pictures here where it's marked where the gas blew up through the ground and where it seeped in. And that's what I was afraid of. See, my cracks in my basement are pretty big. If that gas would have got under my house, this house would have been gone too. We were all here. But see, the neighbors wasn't home, except for their grandson that had stopped in from college. So, but anyway, they, thank God nobody was hurt from the explosion. But that's what my main concern is this subsidence causing the gas lines underneath to come apart. So nobody has been killed yet, thank God, but, I mean, from the gas lines coming apart. But now up in Burnsville, I don't know if you know, they took all the gas lines out up there. Ever since this explosion happened, they're gonna be on the safe side, they figure. So, but, and then my daughter goes on to say that my parents had purchased this house and the property with the dream of raising their family in it and passing it on to their children. Consolidated Coal and the Bailey Mine has taken that dream away, as well as the dreams that will ever be dreamt here. These companies haven't only caused physical damage to our home, but they have caused so much tension and stress and anger between the family members. Every little sound makes us jump around here. You know, we're saying, what's that, or what fell now, and what, because they did put a monitor downstairs in our basement, a little monitor for a methane, for smelling methane and that. So, but, well, that's all I have to say about this letter here that she wrote. But, yeah, they forced us to get this new water well drilled because, see, what my husband wanted to do to begin with, he asked them if they would come and clean this. He wanted his water, the water well cleaned out. And he didn't want a new one drilled at that time. He just wanted it all cleaned out and fixed up. And here they came and they put a new, I don't know, plastic pipe down there. They didn't. There was still leaves and all kinds of debris down in there that they never cleaned out. So this is what they considered cleaning our well. They put that new thing on it, that new plastic pipe, and that's all. And then they threw 2 chlorine tablets down in there, and that's all they considered cleaning it out.
The settlement, like I said, we started in 1989 when this house started falling apart. I think it was a year later or so we got an attorney, and then they just hee-hawed back and forth, and they really never did anything. Finally, the doors in the basement fell out one day. The brick on the front of the porch, pier brick, fell out. We contacted the attorney contacted them. They come back and says, well, go get the materials to fix it up for winter time and give us the receipts and we'll reimburse you. So we did. It ended up like $60 worth of material. We took the receipt to the attorney. The attorney gave it to them and they says, how do we know you used it? So we never got reimbursed for the material we used, just to close it up for the winter time. So then it started going on, that they were just going back and forth. They tell you this, they tell you that. No, we're not going to do this. And then it was just like I said, since '89, and finally this year, they put an X amount of dollars in escrow. I got a contractor to come out and give an estimate what it would cost to repair this house. They sent out a contractor to look at this house, but my contractor had to be here with him. And I said, well, why does my contractor have to be here? I says, can't your contractor just come here and see what to do? He says, well, I have to see what your contractor's going to do. And to me, You know, when you go bid on a job, every contractor don't come here and discuss what they're gonna do. Each contractor bids what he thinks has to be done. Well, when our contractor came here, he took the same scope of work that my contractor did for an X amount of dollars and lowered it approximately about $55,000.
I thought they were being nice enough to put this gas line in across here above the ground, our gas well, from our gas well to my house. They says they didn't want to take no chances in this house blowing up for my gas well line breaking underneath there. So they went ahead and put a new yellow gas line. They says it'll stay above the ground. That's when they put the little detector in my basement too, monitor. And then we got a bill, after they got their bill for us when our doors fell in to fix that, we got another bill, a letter from them saying that they want us to pay for the gas line they put in and all that, what they did for us after the explosion.
And we never asked them.
And we never, I said, I never asked you to dig up, to put that new gas line in or do anything. But this is how
Did you explain when the thing blew up?
they shut my private gas well off. And I was without heat here for 2 days. And that was in beginning of January. I said, I sat here with people gave me heaters and everything else plugging in. We sat in the living room there trying to stay warm. Pipes froze up. I said, it was a nightmare. Nobody knows. I says, to this day I get choked up just talking about that explosion. I mean, that's how terrified it was.
I don't know if you've seen it coming in. Our whole hillside back here is falling in now. I went to a geologist. He wants an extraordinary X amount of dollars to come out here and take tests of this to prove it's mine subsides back here. I don't have the money to pay for that. So now I have approximately, it's got to be, I'd say 2 acres of this hill back here is eventually over, well, half of it's in a creek already, but it's going to come down. I don't have the money to pay to saying that this is mine besides back. So we end up making a settlement that I didn't think was good enough. Now I'm building another house. I have to get mine subsidence insurance that I don't believe I should have to get. Our roads out here are terrible. The people in the community now are not people, everybody's by themselves. You don't talk, I mean, you'll wave and maybe say hi. There's no more, togetherness like it used to be. You can't sell nothing out here anymore. So I believe they're just ruining the country. People automatically say, well, I see this money, and they take this money. They don't understand what's going to happen years down the road to my kids or whoever kids that's going to live out here. There's nothing going to be here. The land's going to be destroyed. The water's going to be destroyed. That's the same thing as you watch on the news, you see DER, a man spilled some oil someplace. Next thing he's got to dig his whole ground up because he spilled this little bit of oil. The coal companies can destroy the property, take your water, take your trees, ruin, make the ground fall in. They always tell you if you're in the center of the panel, you'll have less destruction. If you're on the edge of the panel, which a neighbor down the road down there, part of his house was supposedly on a solid part of coal, the rest, it went 7.5 inches cockeyed. It just, like went over the hill. Now, he's retired. He's been retired. And that's the part that gets me. Here's people that's retired, old people that's retired. They have to get up every morning wondering, can they get out their door? How much more is my house going to fall apart? You make a settlement. I repaired his house for him. It's still cracking. Now, what's he going to do? He's retired. He's supposed to take life easy. He's supposed to sit on a chair outside. He's supposed to go on vacations or wherever he wants to go. He don't have to worry about where his house is. Just like I said, this house here, I don't know if you can, it's running downhill. When I build this other house, I hope it stays there. I don't know if it is. But why should I have to worry about this the rest of my life, what my house is going to do? Yet, and then tax-wise too, we had a big thing out here on taxes. They send people out here, and how can they tax my house? You got mine subsides, the hillside's falling down back. How can they come out here and say, well, you just built a new house, we got to tax you on it? Yet everything else is falling down around it. People don't understand that. People, when they hear, well, they offered you X amount of dollars. All the people are looking at right now is the money and not worrying on down the road what's going to happen to the rest of the community or wherever they do this longwall mining at.
anybody loses water, they call the land agent. They have within 8 hours, I think they told me, they'll have water to you. Now, everybody, my neighbors and everybody's lost the water. I can take you and send you and I showed the other people. There's water buffaloes, tanks, 1,000-gallon tanks sitting in everybody's yard. I mean, my church, we lost the water at the church. And if public relations of the coal company, what counts to, if they didn't supply water, there'd be sitting up the road. This barrel tonight, you couldn't get the people in. I don't know if they're mining under you yet, Bob, but you're going to find out what's going to happen. And then when it's happened, it's too late then. Because it's going to be neighbor against neighbor. That's the way they work. Husband against wife. And they used me against my neighbor for an airship. I mean, that's how crooked they are. They'll have you build up so high that you think the world is great. And then they'll put you down so low that the gutter's not in you. Now, that's the way it works. I am a dairy operation. I have a well right now. It's 120 feet deep. The coal company put on 2 water meters last week. I've already used over 4,000 gallons of water. They're monitoring to see how much water I'm using or something. I cannot wait 8 hours. If I get up some morning and there's no water in that hole, there has to be something done drastically real quick. Because the cows have to be milked, have to have water to drink, and that's another negotiation problem. Another thing, I heard somebody say that, well, if you lose your water, move out, go to some other place. This is something else I found out. If you lose your water, the minute that longwall comes through, and if you have any doubt whatsoever, you make a claim right then. My home farm, it was mined under in about, I think it was 1985. My parents were still living at that time. They was elderly, and they didn't use very much water. The company was big on it. They had water, you know. Now my daughter lives there, and of course we use more water. And my dad had a block plant done, made blocks like we built buildings with. Whenever I was just a little kid growing up, we used that well for that block plant plus the house. We always had water. Whenever my daughter moved in, we had limited supply. So I called the coal company here. And I said, I don't have enough water. Well, this was probably about 1992. They said, you had 3 years, which I did not know. You want to remember this. From the day that longwall goes through there, you have 3 years. That's when it was. Maybe a little, in this new bill, it might be 5 now. I'm not sure about that. But I had 3 years to make a claim. Well, it was 85 to 92 before I made a claim, and I'm on my own. I drilled a hole 130 feet and didn't even hit a drop well. I paid for that. So, well, limited the problem. I put my present well, it made some water. I put it on a 30-minute timer, pumped it into a reservoir. I think it's 10 gallons every 30 minutes. And that's the way we're supplying water. Dean's Water Service and Higgins Hall. There's 2 water suppliers who serve in Greene County, and they make regular runs. They made a run right beside my home farm, and they would supply the water. I had to pay for it to pop it together. Now that's how crooked they are, I'm telling you. And that's the reason, if you lose water, and you call them up, they'll probably have it right there, because of public relations. They've had me heard with the Pennsylvania Supreme Court.
You say you
I
filed,
didn't pick them, they took me for gas wells. If anybody's got a gas well on their property, they have the right to plug it in. They won't even ask me right through. Talking to a guy Saturday that he owns a gas well. It's one of the best wells in Greene County. They said they was coming through, and I think they getting the Fort Junction installed. I can tell you, on my road, it's closed right now. When Miss Christina was there, probably a month ago, half the road dropped straight down. I mean, it's a terrible society. They've been working ever since she was there, and I just talked to the driver this morning, and they've been hauling dirt. He told me it's approximately 40 loads a day, and they estimated this morning that it would take 300 to 400 more loads to bring that up the street. They've got a D9 dozer sitting in there, and a 977 and a roller working. And I said, who's paying for this? Well, I didn't get this from the top official, but one of the drivers told me, said that Department of Transportation had a special fund set up that they paid. I said, it's not our tax money should pay this, it's the coal company that costs it. Because a methane hole is right there. It has to be in the subsidence grant.